Okay, I will really try and be brief, but I could talk for like 10 days about why I make rectangular guitars. First off, I'll admit it, I started making them that way because I thought they looked cool. And I thought, wow, I wonder if you can make a guitar that sounds half decent that's in the shape of a rectangle. Check, you can do that. I've made over 100 rectangular guitars now. And I could do a blind sound test, and you would never be able to tell that it's square. You might be able to tell that it's made by me or that it's not a Martin or a Gibson, but you wouldn't go, oh, that sounds like a rectangle. Absolutely could not do it. I defy you to do that. The actual shape of the instrument in terms of the sides doesn't have a huge effect on the tone. It has an effect. Everything has an effect, but it doesn't have a huge effect on the tone. And so making them the shape that I do gives me a couple advantages, and I'll try to go over them really quick because you might not be as geeky about this stuff as I am. So first and foremost, if you want to bend wood to make a round guitar, it's got to be thin. This piece of East Indian rosewood is probably 10 thousandths of an inch or less, and that would be about where you want it, maybe even less than that. To bend it, you put it over a hot bending iron and you bend the wood. It's got to be that way. If you try and bend an 1/8 inch piece of wood like this, it's just not going to happen. It won't bend. It'll bend to a certain point and then it'll just break. So if you're going to make curvy guitars, you're going to have to bend them. You're going to have to use thin wood. The thing about the sides, the main role of the sides of a guitar is to translate the energy from the top to the back. Just about every guitar maker will tell you that you want a good, resonant, rigid side. Some of the fanciest guitar makers these days are actually even laminating their sides. I know that's sort of like a dirty word in guitar building. You want a solid wood guitar, but a lot of builders are using several layers of this really thin wood because they want their sides to be more rigid. If you don't have to bend them, you can use an 1/8 inch piece of wood. It's got more resonance to it. It's got more rigidity to it. Some luthiers will argue with me on that point, but it's undeniable. You have more flexibility in the thickness of wood that you can use for your sides if you choose to. All right, so the other thing is if you have a curvy guitar, you're losing some important real estate. Now, if you think of a traditional shaped guitar, it would come down here, and then it would sort of squeeze in around the sound hole and come in around here. Now, you're losing real estate here that could be resonating. Yeah, it's important, but here's another thing. You want this top to be able to vibrate. And it's braced up just to the point where it won't fall apart, but not so firmly that it can't vibrate. This top vibrating is what's giving us our tone and our projection. As you sort of make the curve of the sides like this, you've got more rim of the guitar that firms up the top. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of a weird concept, but if you figure where the guitar meets here, the guitar meets here, it's going to be much more rigid and firmly held than in here, where it's farther away from that rigid side. But if you bring your rigid sides in here, all of a sudden you're firming up this top. Now, a great guitar maker can get around that with bracing and stuff like that, but this shape allows me to have a lot of really beautifully resonating real estate. So that's it in a nutshell, friends. The other thing that I love about making them in a rectangle is if in a traditional guitar, for the sides, you're going to need something this long. It's typically in the 35 to 6 inch range. You need a long piece that you're going to bend. I don't need anything that long because most of my guitars are around 20 inches this way and 12 inches across. So I can be a little more flexible with the materials that I use. This guitar is a great case in point. This piece of wood would certainly be thrown away by most luthiers. It's got a big old hole in it. But because I don't have to bend this piece of wood, I can take advantage of that hole and use it as a side sound point. So, side sound port, sorry. That's it in a nutshell. I could geek out for several more days about why I choose to make rectangular guitars. They look cool. I can use different materials. It gives me opportunity to make the top more resonant and freely vibrating. It gives me a chance to use thicker sides if I want to translate that energy from the top to the rest of the guitar. And I'll admit it, I like to be a little bit contrarian, and I think they sound good. There it is, friends. That is my 5-minute and 30-second rant on rectangular guitar.